the first public meeting of this school year, so welcome everybody. Before we begin the board meeting, I would like to acknowledge the traditional territory of the Tsawwassen and Musqueam First Nations and of all the Hunkaminam speaking people who have been stewards of this land since time immemorial. I would like to also offer my respects to all the elders who have gone before us and to all Canadians who are on the journey of reconciliation. I would also like to introduce each of the trustees. When I mention your name, would you please say present and wave so that those watching online can see you? Vice Chair Daniel Boisvert.
Evening, everyone.
And Trustee Erica Beard.
Hi, everyone.
Trustee Laura Dixon.
Hello.
Trustee Jesse Dosanjh.
Good evening, everybody.
Trustee Nick Kanakis.
Hello, how are you guys doing?
And finally, Trustee Bruce Reed, who may just be a voice and not a face.
No, I'm here for now.
Oh, right on. Hi, Bruce. Trustee Reed. Okay, with all 7 trustees present, I can confirm we have quorum for the meeting. And we also have representatives from our education partners participating via Zoom conference call. So from QP 1091, we have Dawn Frederickson, who's the president of QP 1091. So
Hi, Val.
Hi there. Joanne Gill, who's the 3rd vice president of QP 1091.
Hello.
Hi, Joanne. From DPAC, Lakvir Barar, who's the president. She sometimes joins us by voice.
Hello, I'm here.
Thanks, Lakvir. From the Delta Principals, Vice Principals Association, Taj Reel, who is the representative and the principal of South Park.
Yeah, hi. Good evening, everybody.
Hi, Taj. Good to see you. Is there anyone here from the Delta Teachers Association? No, I'm not hearing anybody, but I know you're here in spirit, if not in body here. Okay. Could I please have a motion to adopt the agenda as circulated? Trustees, so the only people who will be showing their faces will be trustees, and everybody else, I would ask that you please stop your video. So Trustee Reed moved adoption of the agenda and Trustee Dosanjh seconded. All those in favor? And those opposed? The motion is carried. Thank you. All right, so now we can move right into some comments. So since we're back at this for the first time in a long time, you get the spiel all over again about what's going on tonight. So if you haven't memorized, I apologize. If you haven't, it's a reminder. So just a reminder that there will be a question period of no more than 30 minutes at the end of the meeting. Questions are limited to the topics on the agenda, so only what was passed this evening. We will take questions from the members of the public who are present in our room first, our Zoom room first, and then we will move to questions from those who are watching online. For those of you watching online, you can view the agenda by visiting the board meeting page on the Delta School District website. If you'd like to submit questions for consideration during the question period, please email them to questions@deltasd.bc.ca before the question period starts. Your name and question will be read out and answered in the order that it was received. There is a short time delay of 10 to 20 seconds between when we speak and when it is broadcast on the YouTube live stream. For that reason, I would encourage you to send in your questions as soon as possible, again, on topics on the agenda. Hopefully, we won't run into any technical difficulties this evening. However, if the live stream stops working for any reason, we will post an updated link to a new live stream on our website. In the event that this should happen, we will halt the meeting for a short moment in order to allow those watching online to reconnect. And touch wood, we didn't have any of those happen last year. So this year, let's hope it's the same thing. Okay, so we'll move on to receiving delegations, briefs, and presentations. And I know that executive staff members will be introducing our new administrators and coordinators. So I'll turn it over to Assistant Superintendent Brad Bowman from the looks of it.
Oh, thank you so much, Chair Windsor, and good evening, trustees. It's a great pleasure at this time to introduce some of our new folks to our administrative team. it feels so strange and so long ago since we've been able to do this in person, but just thrilled that they've made the time to be here tonight. And it's with great pleasure that from the North Zone, I introduce the new vice principal at Delview Secondary. She's hot off the press, if you will. She came to us in a whirlwind competition in August, if you remember. And it's just with great pleasure that I get to introduce Christine Oliver. Christine's been a teacher at North Delta and South Delta Secondary. She was there for quite a while. She started with us back in 1997, so a long-standing Delta educator, and we're just so proud that she's joined the Delview team. So Christine, if you could just give us a wave and a quick hello. Great to see you.
Hi, thank you so much for that kind introduction, Brad. It's just such an honor to be in this new position and to be with such incredible kids at Delview and great leadership, and the staff has been so welcoming. So I'm so very grateful. Thank you.
Thanks, Christine. And with that, I'll pass it over to Assistant Superintendent Gordon.
Thank you, Assistant Superintendent Bauman, and good evening, trustees. It gives me a great pleasure to introduce new administrators to the Delta District. First, we have Shannon Wood, and Shannon is the new principal at Pebble Hill Elementary and formerly vice principal at Cougar Canyon in North Delta. We are very, very honored that she has joined our team. So Shannon. You're muted, Shannon.
Hi, it's funny not being able to see myself on screen. Thanks very much for the introduction, and I'm thrilled to be at Pebble Hill. Looking forward to a great year and lots of, good things to come. Thank you.
Great, wonderful. And next up, I am thrilled to announce the new vice principal at Cliff Drive Elementary, working with Patrick Klassen there. Tricia Steck-Skillings. Tricia was a teacher at Cliff Drive and has the great pleasure of moving into a vice principalship role there, and thrilled to be working with her as part of our team. Tricia.
Thank you. Hi, I'm very excited to move into the new role at Cliff Drive, and I'm looking forward to all the great things that we're going to accomplish together. And I'm also very excited to join this wonderful team of administrators with Delta. So thank you so much.
Great. Wonderful to have you here, Tricia. And my third introduction tonight is for Mareva Hope. Mareva has also been a teacher and last year appointed to the vice principalship at Sunshine Hills, where she taught. Mareva comes from a family of teaching, and it's just a wonderful pleasure to have Mareva working with Jody Billingsley at Sunshine Hills Elementary. So welcome, Mareva.
Thank you so much. It's been a wonderful start to the year, and I really look forward to furthering my career with the school district.
We look forward to working with you too, Mareva. It's going to be a great year. So those are the newly appointed vice principals and principals from my zone. So great honor to be able to introduce them tonight. Thank you.
And HR Director Judy, are you introducing some people too?
Yes, I am. I'd like to introduce Nicole Braid, who has joined the Human Resources team as District Principal of Recruitment, Retention, and Wellness. Although Nicole is not new to the Delta team, she's been here as a teacher and a vice principal and principal. She started in HR last February, and we are thrilled that she is taking the lead in this most important work. So I welcome Nicole Braid, if you'd like to say hello.
Good evening, everyone. Nice to see you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And is that the end of our new introductions? I would like to give a little welcome myself to our new Executive Secretary, who is Shani LaBrosse. Shani has joined us, filling in some big boots by our departing Tracy Nelson. Tracy's playing backup role tonight, and Shani is doing her first ever public board meeting. So Shani, I don't know if you feel like showing us your face and saying a quick hi. Sorry,
I'll say
I'll say a quick hello to everybody. I'm just sharing my screen right now, and I want to make sure that I save this place. But thank you for the warm welcome, Val.
I hear you, and welcome. We're so glad to have you join us. And Tracy, we're so glad you're there as our backup too right now. So that's fabulous. Okay, we'll move into Indigenous presentation for National Truth and Reconciliation Day. And I'd like to introduce Diane Jubenville, who is our Vice Principal of Indigenous Education. So Diane, over to you.
Thank you, Val. Good evening, everyone. Good evening to all the trustees, Board Chair Windsor, and Superintendent Shepherd and Executive. So this evening, I'm going to share a bit of information on the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. And I'm just going to share my, can I share my screen, Val?
Shani can probably make that happen. I don't have control of that. Those who know better than I can tell you what to do.
If I share mine, I'm going to be stopping yours. Is that okay?
Brad?
Diane, I think I noticed that Curtis had given you shared hosting, so you should be able to share your screen.
Okay.
Here we go.
I'm going to move this over. Okay, so now it's just moving this thing. Yes, okay. So what is the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation? So this is a day on September 30th that is a day for reflection, remembrance, and action to honor and acknowledge the history and legacy of the residential school system that ran in Canada from the 1870s to the 1900s, and the last one closed in 1996. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission traveled across the country for 5 years to hear the stories of residential school survivors. It established that residential schools were sites of widespread physical, emotional, and sexual abuse, and the extent of which is still being uncovered. September 30th is a day to honor the stories of those who attended, to examine our colonial past, and to work together to build a new kind of future for our children. The designation of this day is in response to one of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's 94 calls to action. Okay, so there's 94 calls to action, and calls to action number 1 to 42. Those are 5 legacies or areas where the wrongs were carried out in our history. And then calls to action 43 to 94 focus on what can be done to bring about reconciliation in workplaces and community. And you'll notice under there that one of them says commemoration. As we read the calls to action, we can ask ourselves, why was this call to action made? And this is the truth part. We have heard and continue to hear stories from across our country that are similar in every region that are coming out for the first time. And then we can ask ourselves, would our community, nation benefit from its fulfillment? And this is where reconciliation comes in. Reconciliation is the courage and dignity of the residential school survivors, sharing their experiences and stories, and everyone, all of us here, being part of the solution. It is not a time for pity, but rather a time for healing. So under the calls, number 80, we call upon the federal government in collaboration with Aboriginal peoples to establish as a statutory holiday a National Day for Truth and Reconciliation to honor survivors, their families, and communities, and ensure that public commemoration of the history and legacy of residential schools remain a vital part of the reconciliation process. September 30th is also Orange Shirt Day, so we are inviting everyone to wear orange shirts. This has been in existence since 2013, and it's an opportunity to discuss or to create meaningful discussion about the effects of residential schools and the legacy that they have left behind. We have put together lots of resources, information, book titles, links to videos, and other website links on the Indigenous Education website. And this is updated regularly and shared widely with staff. So what is the Delta School District doing for reconciliation? What we're doing a lot, but on September 29th, the Delta's Indigenous Education Department will share a virtual visit with intermediate and secondary classes to talk about truths and reconciliation. They're going to be sharing a variety of video clips and survivor stories and engaging in conversation around what is reconciliation. And to the primary students, Heidi and Cody will introduce the importance of Orange Shirt Day and the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation through an age-appropriate story of the Orange Shirt story. And they have also created a video for those who cannot join live. So that is intended for intermediate and secondary. And they just invite teachers to also go to the website for more information. We made a pamphlet that addresses more of the initiatives that we are doing in the district, as well as some ideas on what you can do personally to begin the process of reconciliation. So in the inside here, we've talked about a number of initiatives, one of them being the house post that Carl Morgan from TFN installed, and about the Monday morning land acknowledgements that we are doing virtually every week. And I just wanted to also mention the TFN site school that we are, that is going on again this year. We had a parent-teacher night this week, and we had a barbecue with the parents, and TFN said that was the best turnout they've had with parents. And I can tell you, it is a wonderful feeling down there. It's fantastic. As you know, we're making this a fundraising opportunity for the traditional canoe, and as well as giving proceeds to the Indian Residential School Society. And I know that we would have probably have liked to continue with more orange shirts, but this was the alternative that we came up with, and it's really about recognizing this day and why we are wearing the t-shirt. So that is it for me.
Thank you so much, Diane. Trustees, are there any comments? Well, I know that personally it's what's happening on the 30th is very significant and very special, especially to those who are survivors and their families of residential schools, and the ongoing education that you and your department are doing, Diane, to ensure that everybody learns just what the significance of this whole terrible situation was and how we can move beyond it and hopefully promote some healing. So thank you so much for all you've done, and we'll just look forward to the learning that's going to continue as well. And you're modeling that new shirt. I know that too. So,
Val, I did forget to mention that on September 30th, on Thursday, TFN is having a walk around the mills at 11 o'clock. If people want to join, you go to the end of Blue Heron Way where there's a Shell station, and in that parking lot we are meeting, and it's about a 5-kilometer walk around the mills. So anyone is invited to join. And one more thing I forgot to mention was that TFN is also going to host a professional learning day in November, and we would like to extend the invitation to trustees and to executive for that.
thank you so much. I'm sure you'll get the date out to us once you know the details of it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Diane. That was fabulous. And I hope trustees are able to join the walk at the mills. Unfortunately, I can't do that. I'm going to be out of town, or I would be there. Okay, moving right along then. Could I please have a motion to approve the minutes of June 8th, 2021, only 3.5 months ago? Trustee Kanakis and Vice Chair Boisvert. Move in second. All those in favor? Opposed? The motion is carried. We have no unfinished business. So I would like to start out on the comments tonight, and then I'll throw it open to trustees to give some thoughts about what they've been doing too. So I'd like to acknowledge World Teachers Day this evening, even though the official day each year, October 5th, is a week today. We don't have any board meetings on that day, so we're acknowledging a week early. I'm sure that each of us has a teacher or two or even three, and hopefully more, who influenced us in a positive way. What was it about that teacher that brings a smile to your face and a warm feeling to your heart? For each of us, that memory is triggered by different factors. A teacher who went way beyond what was expected of them, a warm smile and a cheery greeting each day as you entered school, the teacher who made you feel safe, and I could go on until the cows come home and then some. There are many things that make the memory of a teacher special in your heart. This year, the theme for World Teachers Day is Teachers Leading in Crisis, Reimagining the Future. Boy, there's an understatement. We know that teachers are one of the most influential forces for quality education and human development. If anyone questioned the work that teachers do, the current pandemic has highlighted the fact that not everyone can or even wants to teach. I believe that because of the pandemic and the many different iterations of education over the last 18 months, there's even greater respect for the work that educators do every day of the school year. Last year, the pandemic forced the entire education community to reevaluate how students could be taught. Many different and creative ways were employed to keep kids learning. A village was at work to make that happen. Everyone in the school system, from teachers to EAs to QB support staff, custodial and ground staff, those who work out of the workyard, the admin team at the board office and DMEC, and I know when I start listing things, I might have forgotten somebody. If so, I apologize because you're all valuable. Anyways, they formed that support system. Together with parents, we all work to ensure our kids continue to receive the education they need to succeed in life. This year, we'd hoped that the situation would ease, but COVID variants continue to plague the world, and we remain vigilant in ensuring student and staff safety as we work to keep our schools open for students. Once again, the education community is rising to the challenge, demonstrating a spirit and determination that is commendable. The Board of Trustees would like to express our appreciation to the caring and committed teaching staff and those with other roles, as they all strive to enable all learners to succeed and to contribute their full potential to their future each and every day. We raise our hands to you in thanks. Thank you. Now, trustees, I know some of you have been very busy. Who'd like to report out on what's been going on? Let's start with Trustee Dixon. I'm going to put you on the spot. You probably have a list as long as
Thank you, Chair Windsor. I had to get off mute. So you can hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. Okay. So yeah, there has actually been a fair bit of work. So bear with me, folks. On the provincial side, 2 provincial committees continue to meet through July and August since our last meeting in June. The first is the Mental Health School Startup Working Committee, which is a partnership of BC CDC and Ministry of Education and sector volunteers. Issued a report to all 60 school districts, which is designed to support school startup and recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic and is aligned with the existing mental health in school strategy. Links and resources for all staff are embedded in the document, which is titled Key Principles and Strategies for K-12 K-12 mental health promotion. So you can just Google that on the ministry website. It should come up with a simple Google search. I've also hyperlinked it into my notes so that it can be included in this meeting's minutes. My thanks also to Delta's Inclusive Learning Advisory Committee and Healthy Schools Committee for taking time this month to hear an introduction to that report. So I hope it'll be a good resource for district level staff all the way to school-based staff. The second committee is the Framework Continuous Improvement Sector, where volunteers are continuing to meet and help co-construct a program to collaborate with Indigenous peoples, rights holders, and education partners to find a way to build system-wide capacity for communication of evidence-based strategies and improved outcomes, which is also known as strategic planning. So that's a big mouthful for strategic planning. Regionally on September 15th, yes?
I'm sorry for interrupting you, but I just intended to remind, I didn't tell Shani that Laura is going to have a written report for you, so you don't have to try and get this down. This is a lengthy report, Shani. My apologies for interrupting.
Yeah, sorry, I did send that note. So regionally on September 15th, Chairperson Val Windsor and I attended our Metro Branch meeting to meet and hear updates from member school districts and to hear from our BCSTA board and committee representatives. So everybody's busy at work on school startup, obviously. And in Delta on September 20th, thanks to DPAC Chair Lakhvir Brar for having Superintendent Shepherd and Chairperson Val Windsor and myself to the first DPAC meeting of the year. Superintendent Shepherd gave an extensive overview for the new school year, and it was great to see all the new DPAC reps giving their time and great ideas in support of students and Delta schools. Also on the 20th, the District Healthy Schools Committee met to discuss our focus for the upcoming school year, including all aspects of physical and mental health and wellness. And finally, but not the least of which, congratulations to Nathan Wilson, Delta's Indigenous Education Enhancement Facilitator, who was co-recipient of the Peace Builder Award by Rotary Club of Tawasin at their November 21st International Day of Peace gathering. Joined by, and Val, I echo your concerns about listing people, so my apologies in advance if I've missed anybody, but joined by Chairperson Val Windsor, Superintendent Shepherd, Assistant Superintendents Bowman and Gordon, District Principal Ted Johnson, and our District Indigenous Education team. Kanakawak was recognized for his work with students in building a greater understanding and knowledge of Indigenous culture and history. To watch Nathan at work for me is to have hope for the future of reconciliation. Also, my thanks to District Vice Principals Diane Jubenville and Paige Hansen and Heidi Wood and Cody Forbes, Indigenous Education Teacher Mentor Coordinators, who helped bring a greater understanding to those in attendance about the district's plans for National Truth and Reconciliation Day and to offer a peek into the learning going on in the Delta School District. So that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Are there other trustees who would like to report?
Yeah, Val, I'd like to step in.
Yes.
I'm not sure how good my reception is going to be, but I'll try and get through it. First of all, I was at the meeting, the finance or the audit board meeting, and there's a lot of exciting stuff there, but I'm not going to take away from Dan Beauvair's thunder. I'm going to let him tell about all the exciting stuff from the audit committee. I did want to report, though, about the ILAC committee, the Inclusive Learning Advisory Committee. A great committee to be on because they're always trying to keep up and improve the aspects of inclusive learning. At the last meeting, we did a couple of things. We talked about basically what the universal and inclusive practice is. We talked about some examples. We had some presenters, Tracy Colioho and Lindsay Scales, and also board certified behavior specialists, Laura Keating and Catherine Edmondson. Christy Abel gave us a report on sexual health in the schools. And then we also looked at the mental health framework, mental health in schools framework, and what we're doing, what has changed, and what can come out of this, and what's the meaning of it for our community. We also reviewed the terms of reference for our committee, and we're looking at what we're doing, what we need to do in the future, and anything that we may have missed. So overall, it's a very I don't want to say heavy, but a lot of important things going on in the committee, and a lot of good work being done by the people who have been part of that committee. So that's my report for the Inclusive Learning Advisory Committee.
Thank you so much. Other trustees? Trustee Dosanjh.
Thanks, Chair Windsor. On August 14th, I attended the opening ceremony of a beautiful track and field facility at the North Delta Secondary School. It was a beautiful day, amazing atmosphere, and great opportunity to meet Delta residents, different sports groups, local Olympians, representatives from all levels of our governments. From Delta School District, Chair Windsor, my fellow trustees, our senior staff, and the school principal were there to celebrate that event. Mayor George Harvey, North Delta MLA Ravi Kahlo, Member of Parliament Carla Quattro, Chair Val Windsor, in their speeches, they shared their contributions for that beautiful project and the importance of sports in our society. And they congratulate to all of us. The facility is a real showcase of what can be achieved when we work together. I would say this facility is the best investment for our students and our local residents to keep them physically active and to perform better in their sports. It was a great event. And also I'd like to mention, it was so nice to see the video Trustee Dixon shared with us a few days ago. And you can see in that video how our staff and the students, how excited they are. And again, this is my report, and next will be a Delta School and track and field facility to need to be done. Thank you,
Trustee Dosanjh. You can tell he's not very proud of that track. He had a major role in ensuring that it was done properly, which is fabulous.
Awesome, awesome.
Other trustees? I know Trustee Boisvert will supply the popcorn for the audit report. Is there anything? Trustee Kanakis.
Yes, I'd just like to echo some of the words that Trustee Dosanjh just stated. It took a long time for the district to get to that point with the city of Delta. It involved the federal, provincial, and municipal governments. And I'm very thankful that that process came to fruition. As I said, it was probably about a 3 or 4 year process. And I'd like to thank the staff who were involved in the process and all the work behind the scenes, because it wasn't, as I said, an easy process. There were many hurdles to overcome. But when we attended that day, I talked to a few of the athletes, and they were just beaming, right, of the excitement of this new facility. And I think what it's going to do is going to bring a whole new sport into Delta. And over the course of probably the next 5 or 10 years, we will see track and field develop in the community of North Delta. And hopefully we can do a very similar project in the communities of Delta, Ladner, I should say, in South Delta. So again, thank you for everyone who was involved in the process. I really do appreciate the effort.
Thank you very much, Trustee Kanakis. Anyone else? I have reported out regularly to trustees in all of the meetings I've attended as your board chair and sent you notes once they occurred, but there were several meetings starting in June and heading right up until last week with regards to the pandemic, of course, and school startup and all that sort of thing. So it's been a very interesting time, and I appreciate being kept in the loop and then being able to inform trustees about what's happening out there as well. So thank you. We'll move on then to information, proposals, and reports. I will turn this section over then, please, to the first one is the 2021 Auditor's Report and Financial Statements. And so I'd like Secretary Treasurer Nicola Chris to submit the financial statement.
Okay, thank you. Hello, everybody.
So I'm submitting the 2020-21 audited financial statements and the financial statement discussion and analysis for your approval based on the recommendations of our audit committee. These financial statements were audited by our audit firm PricewaterhouseCoopers under Section 95.63 of the School Act. And our auditors have, again this year, issued an unqualified audit opinion, which means that these financial statements present the financial affairs of the district fairly in all material respect in accordance with Section 23.1 of the Budget Transparency and Accountability Act of BC. The financial statements, they're due at the ministry's office by the end of September. And we plan on having the audited financial statements and also the financial statement discussion and analysis on our website for you tomorrow to look at in more detail. And because there's not all that much time at the meeting here today, I recommend that if you're interested in learning more about the financial picture from last year, that you might like to read the financial statement discussion and analysis, which is management's perspective on the financial affairs of the district for the prior year. And it is quite detailed, and we're hoping that it is an informative read for you. I'd like to highlight one single item, though, over and above what you might read there in more detail, and say that during last year, the receipt of $7.3 million from the provincial and federal COVID grants expanded the district's available resources to be able to allow us to take care of student and staff needs, the safety and well-being of everybody, to the best of our ability during the pandemic, and that the district is also in a positive financial position to weather the challenges of 2021-22 that might be coming our way. And then I would also like to thank our amazing financial services team, beginning with our Assistant Secretary Treasurer, Candace Gartrey, our Director of Finance, Robin Faust, our Manager of Financial Services, Linda Hives, our Budget Officer, Tracy Sutherland, and the whole financial services team for their excellent care of our financial affairs during the year and for taking us to a very successful year end once again. And I take you back to Val to Board Chair Val Windsor for our recommended action and next steps. Thank you.
Thank you. And I would like to ask Vice Chair Daniel Boisvert, who is Chair of the Audit Committee, to give some comments.
Thanks, Chair Windsor. Everybody's got their popcorn. Audit is obviously a very important job that we have to do as trustees. And I'm proud to say that our Audit Committee did an excellent job this year. Thanks to Nick Kanakis and Bruce Reed, trustees that were with me on this committee, as well as our two public members, Scott Stoylan and Anthony Lynch. At our last audit meeting, we did meet with our auditor, PricewaterhouseCoopers. We reviewed 4 significant risks that auditors look at on a regular basis. These include fraud and risk as it relates to the management's possible override of controls that are in place, improper revenue recognition, amortization, and compensation costs. They clearly indicated to us that there were no issues with respect to any of these. They further went on to say that our staff was cooperative, highly transparent, and extremely responsive to all of their requests. They gave us absolutely no reason at all to think that our statements are not fairly presented. And certainly the Audit Committee has made a recommendation to the board that it adopts the recommended action of approving the financial statements. Thank you, Chair Windsor.
Thank you so much. Okay. Well, first of all, I would like to thank the committee for all the work as well. The Audit Committee, it's nice to have a couple of external experts in finance joining us, to have it's nice to have some eyes that aren't up close and personal to it, taking a good look. And then getting affirmation from Price Waterhouse that our financial house is indeed in very good order. And I credit Secretary Treasurer Nicola Christ and her staff, whom she has named, for being incredible stewards of the district's finances and for guiding trustees in making good decisions with regards to our finances. And it's one of the reasons that we still have our heads above water, all things considered. And we're doing more than just our heads above water. Anyway, so thank you to everyone who's involved in this process. And we can put this process to bed because I know our financial staff have got more paperwork because the government likes paperwork. Once we dispose of this, there's more to come. So Shani, trustees, you didn't see this part of the motion. We hadn't included the recommendation of the District Audit Committee, and the Vice Chair Boisvert as much as moved it, that the Board of Education accept the recommendation of the District Audit Committee with respect to the approval of the 2021 consolidated financial statements. And I know that Trustee Boisvert has moved that. Is there a seconder to that motion? Trustee Kanakis. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor then? Opposed? The motion is carried. Okay, then we have the second part of the motion, which is that the 2020-2021 Auditor's Report of the Delta School District be accepted and that the consolidated financial statements as at June 30th, 2021, and the related notes to the financial statements as audited by the firm of PricewaterhouseCoopers LLP be approved. Could I please have a trustee to move that? Trustee Dosanjh, seconded Trustee Boisvert. Any discussion? All those in favor? All those opposed? The motion is carried. All right, thank you. And thank you again to everyone involved in this whole process. It's lengthy, but necessary. Okay, I would like to ask Assistant Superintendent Nancy Gordon then to give us a report, an update on the enrollment situation in Delta.
Thank you, Chair Windsor. It gives me pleasure tonight to give you an updated report. Now that classes are slightly more settled, the numbers are starting to gel. So I'm going to give you the report by zone across the district, separating elementary from secondary. So in North Delta, elementary schools from last September to this September are down about 87 students. In Tsawwassen, the elementary schools are up 14 students, and in Ladner, they're up about 8 students. And I'll give you some of the reasoning for that in just a moment. At the secondary level in the North Zone, we have 21 more students than last September. In South Zone at South Delta Secondary, we have 33 students more than last September. And in Ladner, Delta Secondary has about 23 less students than a year ago, September. So for the grand totals across the district, elementary is down about 65 in school, and secondary is up about 31 students. And that gives an overall total of about 34 students less than last September. And the reasoning for that is that HomeQuest traditionally has had about between 80 and 90 students in it every year. And this year, HomeQuest currently has 145 students. So that leaves an increase that these 60 students that are in HomeQuest that would typically be enrolled in our schools. So overall, we are up from last September. So hopefully that clarifies. Yes, we are up probably about 30 students since last September overall.
Thank you so much. Trustees, any comments or questions? Well, it's interesting to see how things have pretty much balanced out one way or the other, with more in HomeQuest than are in schools, and we certainly know why and can appreciate and understand. Well, thank you very much, Assistant Superintendent Gordon, for that that information, which always, you know, the 1530 forms have to be in at the end of the month, and that's how we get funded according to the students who are in our schools. So thank you, I appreciate that. Next on the agenda then is Enhancing Student Learning Report. And I would ask, I will turn this over to Superintendent Doug Shepherd.
Thank you very much, Chair Windsor. As many of you are aware, the Ministry of Education works with school districts and the co-governance model between boards and the ministry. And probably the most essential component of that is about trying to enhance or increase the options available for students through their educational career and beyond. And so one of the newest elements in that work that's been ongoing for decades is entitled the Framework for Enhancing Student Learning. And this comes under the Ministry's Policy for Student Success. And this is the first year we are bringing these two new reports to the board for approval. So the first one we'll be bringing is an annual report, and this is focused in on the previous goals of the board and in terms of student achievement under the framework. And I'm going to ask Assistant Superintendent Brad Bowen to provide you with a bit of a background and a highlight of the first draft or the first Enhancing Student Learning Report for Board of Education approval.
I believe, Doug, that Superintendent Shepherd, that I had planned to do the summary.
Yes, you did. Sorry, Assistant Superintendent Gordon will provide this report, and Assistant Superintendent Bauman will do the next one. So thank you, Nancy, for jumping in, and take it away, please.
Now I'm hoping you'll be able to see this. Is that people able to?
Yep, that's working, Nancy.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to just walk you through a summary of our previous framework for enhancing student learning. And you may remember that when we created this framework, all of the goals from schools were created using the spiral of inquiry, and they were all based on student learning needs. And the district collected up all of those plans, and they captured the essence of all of it from across our schools. And then we scanned and discovered that the evidence was telling us we needed to add one more goal. So the goals, this allows for alignment. School goals feed to district goals because schools are telling us that those are learning needs within their sites. So you will likely remember that we had 4 goals in the previous framework for enhancing student learning, and they were connectedness, they were reading, assessment, and graduation. And tonight I'm going to provide you just a bit of a review and a summary of the data and the evidence within each of those 4 goal areas. I'm going to start with connectedness, and there's several ways that we measure this. One of the first ways is that we do a district survey at the elementary level, and last year 83% of our schools took part in that, elementary schools, and the results of that showed that 90% of grade 5s and 87% of grade 6s had 2 or more adults who believed they would be a success in life. Some of those students that aren't captured in those percentages would have had 1, but we work to have 2 adults who believe kids will be a success in life. And that's a continuous improvement goal for each school. The MDI, the Middle Years Developmental Index, is another tool that we use to measure connectedness. And on that, students in grades 4, 7, and 8 all indicated solid connectedness with adults at school and at home. But what we did learn from that is there's work to focus on with the student-adult connectedness in the community. So that's something that we will continue to think about as we think about our learning across with and outside of our schools and into the community. We also use the ministry satisfaction survey, and there's 4 questions that relate to connectedness on that survey. It's given in grades 4, 7, 10, and 12. One of the questions is how many adults at your school care about you? And we are above the provincial average in all grades except grade 12. So that's something that we continue to need to pay attention to. Another question, do you feel welcome at school? And once again, above the provincial average at all grades. We do need to continue to focus on students with ministry designations. For some reason, those students are about 10% lower than our other students. So that's something that we need to continue to pay attention to. We also need to focus on some of our subgroups, like our Indigenous learners and our children in care. There wasn't enough data to capture that, but we need to dig deep to make sure that those students are feeling welcome. And the question or the statement, I feel that I belong at my school. Once again, the district, Delta District, is above the provincial average at all of the grades. But we need to focus on that, because even though we're above the provincial average is lower than we would like. So that's something that we need to continue to focus on. And finally, adults in my school care about me, and we are above the provincial average once again there. So reading is our second goal area. And our goal was to have all of our students reading by grade 3. And previously, we relied only on report card letter grades. So 4 years ago, teachers in grades 1 through 3 assessed students using reading benchmarks, and they've tracked that information by grade year after year by term. So each term, students are given a reading benchmark and it's collected. And at the kindergarten level, they assess their students using 17 foundational reading skills. So a lot more information about how our kids are doing in reading. And this benchmarking allows us to track students' progress across time, across grade. So from the data, what we really noticed is that students in kindergarten who reached 16 or 17 items on the foundation skills profile were more than 85% of those kids were reading at grade level in term 1. So what that tells us is that we really need to focus hard on making sure that our kindergarten students have those foundational skills. So when they come into grade 1, we can move them forward in their reading and carry on, rather than spending time reviewing and trying to capture those foundational skills. So the reading benchmarks, these were term 3, our most recent data, grade 1, 2, and 3. Those were the percentages of students reading at grade level. This work it's very important that we continue this work. And a key component is supporting teachers with the skills and strategies that have been shown to improve student reading. So that's something that our Learning Services Department, the Curriculum Instruction and Assessment, will continue to focus on through teacher professional learning. Assessment for learning was another goal area. The impact on assessment for learning on student achievement is very, very significant. And so a wealth of resources were created for teachers. And we looked at some of the satisfaction survey and using what we call the big 3. What are you learning? How's it going? Where to next? And when students can articulate and really be clear about what they're learning, it helps us to understand that they know what the targets are. So this was a question that came off the satisfaction survey. And do you know what things are considered when your work's marked? And do you know what things are considered when your work is assessed? They were slightly different questions by grade level. When you look at that, the green tells us that we are above the provincial average. And so for 2 years, In grade 3-4, there was a little bit of uncertainty, slightly below, but for the most part, we are above the provincial average for that question. And then Brooke Moore has done some research on following student perspectives on those questions and whether they were unsure or did they have surface learning, were they certain or confident, and they were owning their learning. So she developed a continuum, and what you can see from 2018 to 2019 is a lot more kids were certain and confident in their ability with understanding and owning their learning. So the work was making a difference across time. And once again, this is another graphic that shows a similar piece from 2018 to 2019, students who were using the big three. And you can once see that it went in 2018, the students who were confident increased significantly. So that's positive indication that the assessment work is making a difference for students understanding and owning their learning. And then we came to graduation. And this is one we've been going hard at for a long time. So currently our 5-year completion rates for all students is 93%, which is 8% higher than the province. We do still have some achievement gaps for some subgroups. So students with Indigenous ancestry, there's been a 30% improvement over 5 years in the district, which is absolutely tremendous. And that is 21% above the provincial level. So there's still a gap in Delta, but we've gone hard and are making a tremendous difference there. Students with ministry designations, there's been a 6% improvement over 5 years, up to 84%. And that's a 20% above the provincial rate. So once again, there's a gap in Delta, but we are significantly above the province. And then children in care and youth in care, that one is been an 8% improvement over 5 years to 38%. That's 2% over the provincial rate, but you can see that there's a lot of work to be done in knowing those stories and trying to wrap around and helping those kids on their path to graduation. And then we looked at transition rate from grade 11 to 12, and that's hanging on to those kids very high, 99% for regular and students with ministry designations. So our kids are staying with us, and that's a really positive piece for Delta. So with that, we have captured up the data. We know how we did. We have once again gathered up all of the school goals at the end of last year. We have looked at which goals still remain important across schools and which goals we need to focus on as we move into our new strategic plan. So in reviewing those 4 goals, what's really clear through the evidence is that some goals need to remain. A few have evolved and maybe transitioned into something larger, and that perhaps it's time to broaden some of those goals. So with that concludes the summary of our 2018-2021 framework for enhancing student learning. And I'm going to pause it there because in a moment, Superintendent Bauman will walk you through the strategic plan proposal. But at this point, that's the summary, and back to the board for their recommendations.
Thank you. First of all, just a minute here. I allowed myself my screen to go. Here we go. It times out on me. Sorry, I'm using the iPad to keep track of my agenda here. Okay. So were there trustees, any trustees have questions or comments? Trustee Dixon.
Thank you, Chair Windsor. It's been very illustrative to watch the framework goals evolve through our process over the 3-year period. So while I think we've heard a very good description about the goals, I'd like to address the process itself. developing a focus, developing evidence, tracking evidence over time, putting resources, having the board align resources with those goals. And most importantly, the communication that goes through with students and staff and the community is really helping us to understand what matters, why is this urgent, what is it we're working on, why does it make a difference. And so I'm really pleased to see, you know, the cycle begin again, because I think that's what's going to really help the continuous improvement cycle. And what does that mean? It means better outcomes for kids. It means better success, better life chances for all students. So one of the things I've always said to people is if you said to me as a trustee, you have $1 to spend, where would you put it? I would always spend it on supporting teachers and their practice and making sure that we can do these very things. So this is what is particularly compelling about this work for me. And I'm really pleased to see where we are with this.
Well said. Thank you. Okay, trustees, I'd like someone to move a motion that the Board of Education approve the Enhancing Student Learning Report as presented.
I'll move.
Trustee Dixon, Trustee Beard seconds. All those in favor? Opposed? The motion is carried. Thank you. So now we'll move on to Assistant Superintendent Brad Bowman, who will talk about the district strategic plan. So we go from the one to what's coming up in the future now. You're on mute, Assistant Superintendent.
Thank you so much, Chair Windsor. I really appreciate the notice. No, good evening, trustees. It's just an absolute pleasure to be here tonight. And I'm going to try and do a very quick overview through what is a really quite a dense plan. And I have to say, I'm truly honored to share the key highlights of our 2021 to 2024 district strategic plan, and really acknowledge and want to acknowledge the incredible work that's been done by all of the folks in our district departments. This has been a huge undertaking, and there's no doubt that so many aspects of this have not only come out of the work that Assistant Superintendent Gordon just shared through our previous FESL goals, but also the continuation of using the spiral of inquiry has landed us in this place. That is front and center. That is our improvement cycle. And certainly in parallel to this, last spring going through the visioning process and still continuing that work has incredibly, I guess the best way to do it is kind of buttressed the resulting strategic plan that we have, because we learned so much in the stakeholder engagement that came through the visioning process. We had many of our folks in terms of the process go back in their departments and really scan for what was happening right now that needed to be addressed. These were our most critical needs in the system, and they represent goals in each department area that need to be supporting student achievement and ultimately the vision. And so we scanned all districts provided goals, and so did schools. Just like Assistant Superintendent Gordon mentioned, we continue to annually review the school goals. And of course, some of those goals have shifted and morphed in the past 3 years as well, and where schools may have in the previous vessel considered goals around student connectedness. They may have reviewed that and felt that they've got some things in place that are really working well and have a greater need to address through the spiral of inquiry. And that might be moving that school into a reading focus or a numeracy focus. So there's a clear evolution between our previous vessel goals that you'll see and the current strategic plan. The first goal, or the other piece that came up through primarily the visioning, but I think also as we got deeper into the vessel goals, we realized that there were some very big themes that were coming out. Areas like equity, universal inclusive approaches and practices, diversity, all of the work being done around making sure that Indigenous worldviews and knowledge are embedded into classroom learning, well-being and connectedness being so fundamental to student success and to the success of our school district. And of course, the core competencies coming alive within the curriculum. These were things that seemed to be too big to be goals in and of themselves. And so the way we package these is to keep them front and center. They're going to run as transversals across all of our goals. And so you will see as we begin to unpack and work towards the goals in the strategic plan, we will constantly be looking through the lens of equity and all of the other things that you see here in terms of the guiding principles. So these are transversals across all goals, and we're going to be working with schools to begin to try and look at how these guiding principles are playing out in their schools related to their goals. So the first goal is no surprise. This is an obvious continuation from our previous FESO goals. As Assistant Superintendent Gordon shared, we've got some very encouraging data around grad rates. But one of the things that we're noticing is that, again, when we continue to look at different disaggregated portions of that data, when we look at our 5-year graduation rate, which is around 93% for the general student population, we're still seeing a real disparity, a real achievement gap between some subgroups. And of course, that's specifically highlighted as our students of Indigenous ancestry, children and youth in care, and students who have some of the ministry designations. And we continue to just be trying to drill down and ensure that we know each of those students at the school level, that there's a plan of supporting student success for each of those students. And we've got school teams that are working and wrapping around those students that are identified as having any possibility of struggling to make it through school. We also want to make sure that there's support for transitions. So not just for those students that might be struggling, that we're monitoring and looking at student year-to-year transitions. We're wanting to make sure that that graduation path and the path for transitioning out of school is one where all of our students feel they have dignity, they have purpose, and they have options at the end of that experience. And also we want to make sure, and this was something that came up loud and clear in the visioning process from students, they want to see that all options for post-secondary are able to be explored and that they're valued and that they can contribute and learn from career programs that are robust and comprehensive. It's not, we're still in that place where we're struggling a little bit to equally value a variety of different career paths. And we want to make sure that that's front and center. Our next goal is powerful and inspiring learning environments. We know that Learning in Delta will provide all students and staff with opportunities and experience to thrive and flourish. And I think something that is unique in this goal that we've really hit on is the notion that this includes staff. Of course, student learning is front and center, but we also need our staff learning and growing and developing. And within the learning environments that we create, we want to make sure that there's opportunities for robust professional learning for staff. We also know that all students need to explore their strengths and that they become inspired to follow their curiosities and passions in everything they do. We know that we have to hold students to high standards, but make sure that they're achievable. We don't want students frustrated or feel that they can't be successful. We also know that learning takes place beyond the walls. And we heard this loud and clear again in the visioning process, that students want experiences that are authentic. They want to engage with multiple environments. And they also want to make sure that that learning is connected to real world issues, that they're able to grapple with some of the real challenges of today, like climate change and some of the other social issues that are front and center right now, and that those experiences are authentic and real. We know that we need to encourage student voice and choice where possible. And we also want to make sure, and this is a big one, that everyone, students and adults, feel a deep sense of belonging and well-being. And so many of the school goals that we see surfacing will find expression in the notion of powerful and inspiring learning environments. So schools that still have a goal around student connectedness, for example, would see themselves in this goal, in this particular goal. There's obviously a lot of meat on the bones behind this, but it's an all-encompassing piece around building positive and inspiring learning environments. And then the third goal is a bit of an expansion. We had a goal in our previous FESL specifically on reading, and what we're seeing is a real move to schools that had those reading goals really start to engage in conversations around literacy and numeracy. And we're seeing some schools that are fully engaged in numeracy goals now, and also at the ministry level, we're seeing a real a bunch of support for us taking this on at the district level. So in here, all Delta students will have the literacy and numeracy knowledge and skills to thrive in a global society. We don't want literacy or numeracy to be a barrier for any students as they transition out of school. And that's part of that piece with options as they graduate. We want this to be something that allows them to thrive and have all the choices possible. And of course, the first three goals, as we look at the first letter of each, build the acronym GPS. And in a lot of ways, these first three goals are kind of the student success goals related to education. And these we feel really will get us from A to B, and A being our snapshot now, B being our Vision 2030. But we can't get there without a solid foundation and a robust infrastructure. So the analogy of a GPS is our navigation, it's where we're going, but we can't get there without a solid road. And these next two goals, excuse me, these next, sorry, I've got a bug in my throat. These next two goals are really that foundation. We're going to strive to have an engaged, empowered, and healthy workforce. And of course, we know that nurturing our workforce will enable employees to thrive and reach their highest potential. And I think, which is really important, this will in turn ensure that our students receive the best educational experiences possible. We're going to have a major focus on recruitment and retention. And you met Nicole Braid tonight, our district principal for recruitment, retention, and wellness. And her work, of course, being a new position to the district, will be front and center in this goal. We want to make sure that we promote staff health and wellness. And we want to ensure that employees have all the information and resources they need to ensure that they can experience and design powerful and inclusive learning and working environments. An extremely important goal that will underpin student success. And finally, our fifth goal is strong governance and stewardship of resources. Without a steady hand on the wheel, and I think I speak for everyone when I say our finance team, our facilities team, and multiple departments that would fall around those, our payroll, IT, all of our departments that support the infrastructure and manage the resources of the district have done incredible work. But there's a focus on continuing to improve efficiencies. And in this way, we can focus on trying to make sure that all of our resources are sustainable and aligned with our strategic priorities. And we also want to ensure that facilities infrastructure is optimal to support student learning and alignment with our long-range facilities plan. And finally, we want to make sure that we're developing a broader understanding of district financial information and resources with all stakeholders. We want people to understand the work that we're engaged in, and we certainly want our staff, community, and our partners to feel that they have a deep investment and understanding in the work that we're doing to try and build student success. And of course, ultimately, Vision 2030. So how are we going to monitor this? As Assistant Superintendent Gordon shared, there's reams of data that we're trying to compile, and we've got a number of data sources that are available to us through the ministry. We'll continue to use all of that. There's some new sources of data that we'll be developing internally. We also have a number of goals to have stakeholder engagement around some of our goal areas, and you'll see more to come on that for sure. But ultimately, the unveiling of Vision 2030 will allow us to see our destination, and that we're trying to head there with these strategic goals. And can't say how much I'm excited about that. And it's just with the collective pride of our district team that I respectfully submit the 2021 to 2024 strategic plan. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Assistant Superintendent Bauman. Trustees, any comments or questions? Trustee Dixon.
Thank you, Chair Windsor. I'm really excited to see this document as well, and I'm looking forward to seeing the vision document incorporated in that. But I already see so much of the good content that we got from our big district-wide 400-person vision meeting. You know, I can hear a lot of that in there. I think the important thing to reflect upon is the opportunity when we talk about stakeholder engagement and feedback is that the communication process will build time and relationships or enhance time, relationships over time, so that we're making sure that people see very real and meaningful ways that they can give input to these evidence-based strategies and the types of direction that our community feels is so important for education for students. So we look forward to a more robust engagement, and I think we call it a COVID keeper. Some of the dialogue that we're able to have virtually seems to be able to enhance that opportunity for people. So I really hope that people enjoy getting into the kind of process where we're having an ongoing conversation, and they really see the why between what we do, and then later we're able to get back to people and say, here's what you told us, here's what we did, where do we go next? And I think that will be very, very important for trustees to feel like they're really engaging with the community on that continuous improvement for students. So I love that stuff, but that's me.
Through the chair, thank you so much, Trustee Dixon. That's a great comment. And I think that's certainly the spirit of the stakeholder engagement that we're hoping for.
Trustee Kanakis.
I'd like to thank all the people who worked on the strategic plan. It's always been one of my goals over the last 3 years is to develop a strategic plan, because what it does is it encompasses everyone within the district with a common direction to go. And I really like the process of putting in the vision for 2030, because we can see where we're going to go in the next 5 years, and then where we're going to be in the next 10 years. And to see all our staff included in this, be it our custodial workers or our teachers or our staff at the board, vice principals, etc., principals, I should say as well, moving in a common direction, I think that's the direction we want to go. So thank you to everyone who's worked on this, and I really do appreciate this coming forward. Thank you.
And thank you. I would also like to echo my thanks to everyone who worked on this document. This is our first kick at this particular can, so the first iteration of our first ever strategic plan, which has evolved from our bold vision, which has been our guiding light right up until this point, and will continue to be as well, and long into the future. But like Trustee Kanakis, I'm really pleased to see the way it includes all employees. It's not just the education side of things, because of course our QP and support staff are an integral part of the whole situation. And without the financial side of things, well, my goodness, who knows what we'd be. So I think this is a fabulous way to go, and I look forward to seeing it evolve over the years. It's going to be great. Other comments or not? No? Okay. Could I please have a motion then that the Board of Education approve the 2021 to 24 District Strategic Plan as presented? Trustee Reed, seconded by Trustee Dosanjh. All those in favor? Opposed? The motion is carried. Okay. Now time for a little commercial break here, because we're getting close to the end of the meeting and I haven't said enough yet. So we're about to discuss the last item on tonight's agenda, and following this, we will move into the question period. We will start with questions from our education partners and media who are participating via Zoom conference call. We will then move on to questions submitted electronically. So this is a final reminder. If you are watching the live stream on YouTube and would like to ask a question on items on the agenda, please make sure you send it to us before the question period begins. And just a reminder, they go to questions@deltasd.bc.ca. As I've already mentioned, there's a short time delay between when we speak and when it is broadcast on the live stream. By the time you see and hear me saying these words, I will have already moved on to the final agenda item. So please don't delay in emailing us your question to ensure that we receive it prior to the start of the question period. Many thanks. So moving into the final section, and I'm going to turn this over to Secretary Treasurer Nicola Christ, which is the board annual work plan.
Thank you, Chair Windsor. I'm submitting for your approval a revised version of the board annual work plan, as you just mentioned, which is Appendix A of Policy 2, the name of which is the role of the board. This document lists the board's areas of work, and this year we have made 3 changes to that document. The first kind of change is that we have integrated recommendations from our recent equity review of district policies and procedures. And in doing so, we updated Orange Shirt Day to become Truth and Reconciliation Day. And we have added National Indigenous Peoples Day to the month of June. A second change that we've made to this document is that previously there were educational highlight presentation topics listed in the various months of the year. And we have replaced these various items with a single generic all-encompassing item in the ongoing section at the end of the document, which simply says that the board receives educational and operational highlight reports. And by making this change, it will enable us to make less frequent changes and revisions to the board annual work plan document itself. And then thirdly, we've made a couple of housekeeping changes for consistency's sake. We've taken World Teachers' Day and the National Day of Mourning in September and April, respectively, and we've moved them from just events to agenda items because they have a larger role than just being an event at the meetings, but we also integrate them into the commentary and the activities of the board itself during the meeting. So that's more consistent with other items of that nature in the report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Trustees, any questions or comments? No, could I please have a motion that the Board of Education approve the updated board annual work plan policy 2-Appendix A as presented? Vice Chair Boisvert, seconded. Trustee Kanakis. All those in favor? Opposed? The motion is carried. Okay. Well, we're now down to the question period time. Are there any questions? So, Shani, would you please put us back into the full screen? Thank you. So is there anyone who is in the Zoom meeting who has a question, comment they would like to make? If so, I'm looking to see if I can see any hands being raised on the side. Yes, our QP President, Dawn Frederickson.
Thank you, Chair Windsor. I just wanted to thank Assistant Superintendent Brad Bauman and Nancy Gordon around the strategic plan presentation, and really just want to thank everyone on the board for the inclusion for our QP members. And I'm excited for the strategic plan and the Vision 2030 and just how the process is working. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Dawn. I appreciate those comments. It's far more inclusive. Is there anyone else in the Zoom meeting who would like to speak? Again, I'm not, if you could put your picture self. No, you could start your video if you wanted to. No, I'm not seeing anybody want to jump right in here. Okay, let's see if you have any questions from members of the public. Catherine Tucker, who is our Director of Communications for the school district, who is joining us via Zoom, has been charged with gathering questions submitted to the email address. Catherine, are there any questions submitted to us?
No, Chair Windsor, no questions this evening.
No questions. Thank you so much. Well, I'm going to wait about 30 seconds if people don't mind, just in case someone wants to jump in with a last minute question. They'll get through to Catherine or otherwise. In the meantime, I hope you're all going to consider what you're going to be doing on the 30th of September, which is Reconciliation Day, How are we going to show our respect and honor those who were victims of residential schools, their families, their loved ones, and what we can do within our own lives to move forward in reconciliation. Okay, I would like to thank everyone who has participated in this public meeting. And our next public meeting is going to be October 12th, 2021 at 7:30. We hope those of you who were with us tonight can join us again. And trustees, could I please have a mover and seconder to adjourn the meeting? Trustee Dosanjh, seconded Trustee Beard. All those in favor will vote by leaving the meeting. Actually, it's approved. Thank you all, and thank you all for coming out tonight, and have a good evening, everybody.